Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Aquarian Mind podcast. Today's podcast, episode number 184. I'm your host, Jamel Crothers. It's Mondays with Mello, and today we're talking about my journey across the country. Yes, I'm finally going to talk about my journey from moving from New York to the West Coast. So, this is going to be fun because I get to go down memory lane a little bit. So, October 3rd, 2020 was the day I was approved for my apartment in Phoenix, Arizona, because that's where I live now. I know I've always constantly said on my podcast on the West Coast, and I know you guys have probably been like, well, where in the world do you live? I live in Phoenix, Arizona, and it was the craziest but scariest thing I've ever done. Yes, it was bigger than going away to college. Because I was only 2.5 hours away from New York when I went to college. See, this is a move across the country, and this is like life changing. But I always knew I'd never stay in New York City for the long haul, and I pretty much said it the moment I came home from my college graduation on May 15, 2005. Yes, that's how long ago I graduated college. So, yes, I don't need to be reminded of how old I am. Yeah. As you listen to this, I'm 3 months away from being 40. Yeah, crazy. I don't sound it. A lot of people say, you don't sound that, and you don't sound 39. And I'm just like, well, what does a 39-year-old sound like? But anyway. So the only thing what, was there was just so many uncertainties. But the day was actually there. And the joy in my mom's eyes when I told her I got approved and the smile my aunt had and the excitement for me said it all. And I was excited. And I spent that night pretty much writing every single thing I needed for my apartment. I walked around my mom's place and wrote down everything she had from her bathroom to the kitchen. And this journey was about to begin, and it felt amazing. But I spent the next few weeks preparing for pretty much everything. My finances were together, found a moving company, bought boxes to pack my stuff, and prepared to sleep on a blow-up bed for the last 2 weeks that I lived in New York. And it was a lot, but I surely had the support system that I was so thankful for, to really be honest. It's been a journey from my college graduation to like age 37 at that time when I was finally leaving New York. So it was like a 15-year journey of just ups and downs, loops, swoops, and pulls, and just anything that you can think of that I dealt with, I did. I dealt with, being laid off from jobs and having seasonal jobs and trying to make it in the sports field, working for so many big name companies. I'm not going to sit and run down a list of all of that stuff because to me, like the names of the companies I've worked for are very well known worldwide, but uh, I'm just not someone who feels the need to want to share my resume with everyone because I'm living my purpose right now, which is writing and doing these podcasts. And I feel like that is what I want to focus on more. But I really kind of want to talk to you guys about my journey, living in New York City. And for those who live in New York, you guys know how expensive it is. And my goal was obviously always to live in LA. But when I look back on it, I sit back and look at things now. I've been in Arizona. It'll be 2 years in a few weeks as you're listening to this. If you listen to this at a later date, that'll be different. But I will say that if I lived in LA, it would have been obviously a struggle for me financially. I would not be able to have certain things that I do have living here in Arizona. But the lifestyle here is much slower and it's something that I needed. I definitely wanted to live in nice weather all year long. I have that here. but I always feel like God knew where He needed me to be, and I can't stress that enough. I've had conversations, with family members that I care for and value the most, especially my mom. And my mom said, "Yeah, you needed to be in Arizona." And I have a bike trail. I can go ride my bike for miles, and I can go play basketball every Friday. There are just things that I'm able to do for myself, and it's a wonderful thing. And I feel like LA would have been too much of a distraction for me, and I'll kind of delve into that a little bit later on. But anyway, let's kind of zip back to me moving here to Phoenix. So when I landed here in Phoenix, it was my first time in this city ever. So it was surely a different vibe and feel, and I had a feeling that this was going to be a great start to my journey. And this move was much needed, as I already said, and it would rejuvenate me mentally, spiritually, and emotionally, and it has. And it's not to say I don't deal with, the struggles of living alone and dealing with the loneliness sometimes, and, not having someone in my life, but I think that there are a lot of things that I had to learn about myself living alone for a good amount of time to where I can, get used to a routine and things that I'm doing for myself. Um, Moving into my apartment, I moved in here with 15 boxes of things that I ordered and needed to be opened, and it was all the necessities for my apartment. It was a brand new apartment. No one had ever lived in it, and it was so nice. And I looked out my window and had views of the mountains. And pretty much within a month, my apartment was all together, complete, and it finally felt like home. I even have a nice picture in my living room of the New York City skyline. So obviously, I had to bring home with me a little bit. And I'm so thankful that God placed me here in Phoenix, honestly. To have mountain views from my apartment, the scenery is beautiful, the weather is great. Summers are brutally hot, but you adjust. It's more mental with the summers than it is physical. If your mental's right, you know how to manage the weather and you know how to, you know, utilize, being outside and when not to, and when the sun goes down, things of that nature. Um, and I wouldn't change it for the world. And after living here for nearly 2 years, I can say this will be my new home for the foreseeable future. Um, but to get back to the LA thing, the LA situation, I would say that I had pretty much, there were two places I could have lived in LA if I really wanted to. Um, just wouldn't have been as ideal for me as I wanted. So I did do apartment searching. There are two people that I know in LA. One was they're both Airbnbs that I stayed at. One of them was a studio, but I knew that I was gonna get overcharged for it, basically, if I wanted to just live there for a certain amount of time until I got my feet wet and figured it out. Um, and then there was another situation in North Hollywood that I could have done, but I kind of wanted to get it on my own if I was to live out there. I will say that LA is a beautiful city. It is full of a lot of smog and a lot of traffic for those who don't know. Uh, there are a lot of places to go, restaurants, beaches, all that stuff. And I feel like if I were to live there, I think I would not have been as mentally focused out there than I am here in Phoenix, Arizona. And what I mean by that is, when you have a purpose and you have a passion for things that you love and you want to do, you've got to be able to be in an environment where you can fully do the things that you want to do for yourself. And I will say that living here, I've been able to really focus on my writing. I've been inspired, by a lot of different things, a lot of different environments I've been in. not necessarily going out and being out and about, but just being in the confines of like just being in my complex for a good while. I was inspired by a lot of different things that were around me. Um, I'm able to record my podcast on a weekly basis here, and it's just a really great thing. And living in LA, I would have had to go to the beach to ride on a bike trail. I have a bike trail that's literally 2 minutes outside of my apartment right now. Um, all the little things that I really appreciate more now. Um, what I will say is if you want to leave your city and move somewhere else, you should. If the opportunity is there, if the finances are there, if you're mentally prepared for it. And if you do it alone, it's scary, and you're going to doubt yourself. You're going to question yourself. I'm going to sit here and tell you about 5 days before I left, I did have a nervous breakdown. I was just scared out of my mind. Like, oh my God, like, I really just did this. Thanksgiving Day, I'll never forget. And, you know, you always, for me, I always said, like, I wanted to, leave and go do my own thing. But when it's finally here and, all of the things you packed in your bed and your dresser and all of that stuff is gone and it's in a moving truck and it's literally going across the country, it hits you. But it was just nervous energy. And now I'm pretty settled here and couldn't be happier. Overall, I'm just the excitement is there. And if you want a certain life and you want to live a certain way, I will say to write those things down, speak those things into existence. And whatever you believe in, whether it's your guardian angels, your spirit guides, the universe, God, whatever you believe in, just, let them guide you into where you want to be and where you want to be in life. And I'm nowhere near where I want to be yet, but I'm thankful for the journey that I've been on. And will I move out of Arizona? I don't know. I don't know what the future holds. I can say, like, I could see myself living outside of the United States. I can say that. But I first need to go travel the world a little bit and really immerse myself in different cultures and different things and then really assess it from there. But that's way too far down the line for me to do that. Right now, I just want to focus on growing my brand and, being with someone special in my life. And that will materialize the way it needs to. My move across the country was it was wonderful for me. There were a couple of bumps and hurdles in the road. Uh, me sleeping on my floor like a burrito for 4 days because my stuff was still in transit. So I had a TV on my floor and my two pillows and my comforter, and I slept on my floor. And I had a good amount of my clothes, in my closet, and I went to Costco, got myself food, and I had the basics. That's pretty much all I needed. I was happy. I was in my new place. And then, by like the fourth day of me living here, that's when everything came in and a lot of things were starting to fall into place. I didn't have a couch for the first 2 weeks I was here, which became a manufacturer's issue, which means I got my couch for free, and certain things worked out and aligned my way. And it wasn't until about the fourth week I was here where I finally found a dining room table that worked for me. Took about 2-3 weeks for me to decide on pictures that I wanted in my apartment and had to buy those. And so everything was a process for me. So nothing kind of fell into place right away. But I will say it was definitely worth moving. I have another family member that moved from New York to Atlanta. And, she dealt with some rough patches that first year that she was there. And now she's feeling at home now. She's feeling comfortable, and she can get back to what she wants to do for herself. So I want you guys to know that if you're ready to leave and you feel like you want to explore and see, a different side of not just the world and a different city and a different state, but also you want to explore who you really are, trust me, leave. Leave the place that you're living in. Going away to college, that helped me to kind of know what it's like to be on my own. But like I said, I was only two and a half hours away. You know what I mean? I can hop on an Amtrak train or hop on a bus and get home and into Port Authority within like 2.5 hours. But now I'm across the country. Now I'm like 4.5 hours on an airplane. It's a different dynamic. And I've learned a lot about myself. And you'll really learn about yourself when you really take a leap of faith and you really do something that you've always wanted to do. So it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful journey. And to embrace it and to know like you're going to meet people that are going to help you to grow, that's definitely going to happen. And I would say that I've met some people that have, elevated me and made me better. And, there's definitely someone special that like I hold dear to my heart. And, she has made me realize, a lot of things about, myself, and I'm growing. And couldn't be more happier, man. Couldn't be more happier. So anyway, this is a longer podcast than usual today, but I really wanted to really immerse myself into this one, and I really wanted to give you my energy, and hopefully you felt it in, my journey across the country, and, the people that care the most are reaching out and making sure I'm good. I have an amazing uncle and only uncle that's about 4.5 hours away in California driving, and he comes to Phoenix, every few months, and we hang out, and I, get to see my little cousins and my aunt and things like that. So it's cool. And he's always giving me insightful things and, making sure that I'm good and I make sure he's good. And it's always good to have a support system. So if you do take that leap of faith, just make sure you have that support system that's there from a mental, spiritual, and emotional standpoint. All right, guys. Done with this one for today as far as the podcast. Thank you guys for listening as always. Be good, everyone, and go accomplish your goals.